Okay, let us continue. And I decided to call this "Why Do the Progression Work?" a title I've been using many times, because as reality changes, so does the purpose of our progression work. And that's the adjustability. That's part of what it means to be both a change maker as well as a forerunner. And the idea with the change maker material and the whole project is where you can implement what you have learned in the progression work, because the progression work alone is just tools to clear your energy system, to try and activate as much as you can so you can withstand what will now come from the reality field, what is coming our way. That's the whole point of the awakening. The ascension is kind of, you're not awakening and then you die. Of course not. We awaken into our higher consciousness potentials, and then we have some good 40 years while we're still around in this shit reality. So we need to be part of this shit show. And how do we survive that? How do we survive the new realities that are coming our way and that is shifting at a rate that is unprecedented? Whether you're part of the fold systems of the dark worlds, or you're part of the parallel universal matrix that are running their hybrid programs, or you're part of the transhumanism that is running the environment and everything that's going on here. If you go back and remember, quite a lot of the ones that were abducted and were shown these, we know Jim Sparks, we know other people, the ones that have been put on crafts, that have, I just popped into one in a TV show of Higher Journeys, I think she's called. I'm not recommending anyone for you to look at, because I can look at whomever and whatever they have of shit in them, I can deal with them. I'm not sure you're ready there yet. So just put it in there. She had an interview with a woman that's been part of these breeding projects of the hybrid kids, taking on board and shown how to nurture these little infants and what have you. And they have tried that with me as well, holographically first, to see if I wanted to join, not actually. And I just showed them very clearly that I was not interested in their shitty projects. But she said, as all of the ones that have been adopted by that transhuman grace, because what are they doing in that one? If you listen to what they're saying to these abductees, is that you are ruining your planet. We have Jim Sparks. You can look at him. It's kind of the old guard and all the things he talks about. That they were being put in front of screens where they were seeing how things bad were going to go on our planet, which we're experiencing now, right? And that woman in the interview, no name, whatever, it doesn't matter. She's just one out of many saying the exact same things. Even Sherry Wilder, a book that was written ages ago as part of the Old World Order program, so that could be recommended, although it could, of course, have been changed energetically now, but doesn't matter. These greys that are coming in and are telling people, we're doing this to save your planet, we're doing this to save your race, we're doing this to assist you in the transition that's happening now. For that, we need your embryos, we need you to produce hybrid kids, which are merged with our genetics here. Why is that necessary for us to survive, that we become blended with your lot, your grace? Why is that necessary? We got Bashar as a spokesperson for some of these psionites in the future, which we know from the mycologic sciences that are hybrid between grace and humans. Isn't that a subtle invasion strategy? Just asking. And Dr. David Jacobs, he actually asked that question and he put it out, and that was what his game was about. And he is now an empty vessel suffering from dementia to such a degree that he doesn't even know who he is. So he was effectively taken out. He got the warnings from the grays of the abductees he was doing regression with that said, you're not allowed to speak about it. He continued to speak about it. Slam. There you get it. So that's why I want to talk about why Stephen Greer is still allowed to be around, because he's co-working with them. Bloody hell. The ones that are not, they are being taken out. As you know, they have been doing a lot of stuff with me. And in the end, it's just a matter of getting out of the realities where they are in control. And that's where the progression work comes in again. You get out of that level of reality they are in control of via your energy work, via the trials, via what you're capable of doing when they're putting you into the different programs, via clearing out the technologies they insert into you. And eventually, if you're doing it in a good way, after years and years and years of fucking battle with these different groups, they just kind of say, yeah, you're really not worth it. and your genetics are you're just messing things up too much, or whatever is going on, or I'm dealing with too much dark shit, so they can't use my genetics, or whatever's going on, doesn't really matter. At some point, they'll let you go because they can't be bothered. There are so many fish in the pond, so why bother with one that is so difficult all the fucking time? So and that's kind of the point here. Well, why is it so important for them to, if we are saying, well, 50 people that would do the progression work, why is that so important? Because in the end, those of us who really do activate, that are part of the original solar system races that used to be here, the original lineages, if we would activate to our full potentials, we could actually claim the planet. So of course they're not interested in that. So that's also, they have been, when we talk about me, that are putting forth these sciences and have recalling of it, and we're part of the original Pillar Project. Of course, I'm going to be shitstormed like hell all the fucking time because they don't want me to activate. So I'm not, if you're doing this, you think, oh yeah, I want to be like whatever is going on with Randy. Don't wish that. You are on your own personal journey. And the tools I've been given to you is because that's the obligation of the progressive races when a system begins to shut down. That's where these sciences come in again and again and again. You already, when we talk about what was the mission of Joshua, blah, 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 that was another one of these attempts to go in and say, in such and such period of time, this is going to go really, really bad. So this is what you need to do. And as always, it's being taken out and distorted and put into something else, as we've seen it with the Bailey teachings and the New Age teachings, Old World Order attempt in the 100-year cycle that is completing in 2025. To get people to activate and get out of the hijacker programs, because the Dracos promised the elders that after a period of time they would pull out, and then we could resume. They would assist us, quote unquote, in activating us so we would get back on track. And that's part of the military projects, part of what has been going on here. Not that it has been done in any ways or forms as it were promised 15,000 years ago, because the elders no longer assist. They are parasites. They are part of the elementals, in the racial grids. They no longer exist. So things have just run rampant here on our planet. So the point being of all of this is that things changes all the time. And now we are in the expiration date of the original program that is falling apart, and new programs are coming in. And the question is, how do you respond to that? And that's part of the change maker, the chaos pilot. And I'm pondering upon doing 2 other courses where, before I go into the business part, where right now it says business and the systemic model of how to deal with the different races. But I actually think that should probably, the business on its own and then dealing with the other races should probably be part of the forerunners. Because as long as we are in the 4th, the only thing you can really do with the 4th cycle that is connected to the 4th dimension is doing the progression work and clear and clear and clear and get the technologies as I have shown you. That's the path out of the 4th dimension and what's left of the 4th cycle. And then get to the point where you begin to see enough of your original consciousness potentials that you can download these into what's left of your mental field. And that's the template science courses, where I take you through the steps of what was it in the past in course 1, what is it now in course 2, and the mental field in course 3. That's where you will get the highest level of the mental field. And for many of you, it might not mean anything, but the sciences are there. So going back to again, what is the important thing is this? Yes, you can do all the classes, you can learn all the sciences, but if you can't afford all of that, what's the most important thing? Your clearing work. And I would definitely recommend the transition science courses so you get the understanding of the energy system, which I explain once we're done with the emotional field. We do the jump into the 3 last courses where we lead into the transformative energy system. And how you can work with that, and what the original purpose was of it, and how to undo the effects of the timeline event and the infected genetics. Because some of you, you were brought here as slaves, so you technically don't have the infected genetics, but you might be in a body that has, because your body is not really yours. That's part of the whole screw up here. Yeah, we put a template into a body where it technically doesn't belong, as part of a lineage where it doesn't belong. So you don't really get the potentials of aligning with your original true lineage, which would grant you what we call the powers of the ancestors, which is what the 7 Sisters Witch Network is working on. They're calling upon the ancient witches going back to Lilith, right? So that's kind of the ancestral line, which you're also seeing repeated in the gospel, not in the gospels, but the Old Testament, with the houses of David, the houses of Solomon or whatever. They are all drawing on the powers of their ancestors. We see it within indigenous people as well. And that's the racial grid. So that's part of some of the things that are being cleared. And you can figure out that the ones that are doing it on the dark sides, they're of course calling in from the second cycle and the first cycle and the third cycle, all depending on what level they want to work on. And unfortunately, females that were turned into these dark witches are always pulled on the second cycle. So there are reasons there why a lot of creatures that comes from the second cycle and underworld are females. Because when you work with that thing, eventually you become these things. And that's why it's important for us to continuously learn to clear these things out of us, even though it's horrifying and scaring if you are in a body that has connection to some of these lineages, as I unfortunately am, because that's one of the ways they've controlled me and might be some of the ways they've controlled you. So when we talk about this progression work, I know I've not been so in the basic concepts as well as in the whole transition sciences. I don't talk about these things to such a degree. I touch ground within the perception logs, and I go more into it in the Changemaker, and I'm going to go more into it when some of the Forerunner material. But the whole point of getting into the 2025 timeline is to get out of that hell that's going to rise up on our planet, along with the natural disasters, along with the climate crisis and the changes of our environment, because the program is breaking down, so that has effect on our planet, including as that happens, the magnetic field is weakening and we'll get more and more solar radiation effects into our reality, which interestingly enough, if you have watched both the movie The Core or the, which one was it? I can't remember, all of these disaster movies where it's all about the sun that kind of kicks off a lot of energy, whether it's neutrinos or whatever it is. And I would say, I'm not saying it is like it is in the movies, because probably not, but there are things there. I remember that one going back to, can't remember what's called. It's annoying, but where everything ices up, where he's at these different exposes. He's in India, where there are different versions of this, but he's then ending up, everything turns into ice and everybody has to in the end go to Mexico. It's annoying, I can't remember what it's called. It's actually okay movie. But there we are also dealing with the Gulf Stream and how that changes, and that leads to changes in the weather pattern. And at that time that was science fiction, and I just recently read in some of the science papers on climate changes that's what they are expecting to happen now. So we're seeing it already now. The El Nino is changing. Is that because the Gulf Stream is changing the current, the Gulf current that are running the weather patterns, that are the driver of the weather patterns, because it changes? What does that happen? How does that happen for us? And in the movie The Core, which is just popped up on Netflix, I actually got it on DVD, but there are these that the magnetic field ceases to exist, and what are the ramifications of that? And one of them were the birds that are behaving weirdly. But another, the whole thing, the electromagnetic impulses will change. There'll be auroras all over the sky and lightning storms and what have you. And I'm just kind of, they put it up on Netflix, and then we have the solar flare kind of thing going on August 3rd, and then on August 4th, or it was in the news on, happened on Thursday, and it was in the news on early morning the 5th, where 4 people in Washington Park had been hit or struck by lightning. 4 people. Did it jump from one person to another? They don't tell, but I'm just kind of, just after just watching The Core and these lightning storms and these kind of things, thinking, there is more going on with our magnetic field that they are telling us. So this is where we are in this weird crossing between science fiction and movies and real fiction, or real science, and our speculations. And we need to know how to differentiate between these levels of information, actually observe what is going on, and just not conclude anything, but just saying, that's interesting, that's a pattern, let's see where it takes. Are there going to be more incidents of this? Because then it's a pattern that's being built. And we are definitely seeing more lightning storms and things that are self-igniting due to the chemtrailing and the lithium flakes that are dropped onto our environment. Some of you might see that plants are kind of weirdly covered with some white thing. I'm not using anything on, you could say, well, this is just dust or whatever. You can find whatever explanation you like, but observe reality around you. Observe the way the rain falls. It's heavier than it used to be. There are larger drops. Is that because of the climate crisis, or is it because we are now having an artificial weather system that is being controlled entirely by the Arcturians that are creating these artificial weather programs so that they can be in control of the different cycles that are being played out? And with that, also the understanding, well, the erratic weather might be, just put it out there, used as leverage. Join this faction, you'll get the technology to control the weather. We are controlling the weather. We're controlling the sun. So now we have that one as a leverage. And join our faction, and then we will assist you in getting the right rainfall when it's necessary. You won't get heat waves the same way. You'll be part of our shield, etc., etc. So that could very well be one of the potentials in the future. That will get the remaining groups of people that are under the different factions to align with them under pressure, not because they voluntarily want to do so, but if they want to survive, that's how that's going to be. So if you kind of understand that if you have a tool yourself to do the progression work and clearing work, you will have a say in these. They will come with the offers. Definitely, I'm getting a lot of offers. And I'm just kind of, yeah, what do you have to offer? And, just kind of saying, yeah, no, thank you. I'm not interested. In my way, I'm not saying it in a verbal way. I am exemplified holographically what I feel about their offer, including their fields, dismantling it completely, using the clearing methods I got as I learned when I was dealing with the alien invasion technology of the Orions. I'm putting down my foot pretty severely. It's not a nicety. I'm saying, no, thank you. No, I'm showing it. I'm showing, no, thank you. I'm not interested in your shit technology. This is what I feel about it. Kaboom. Bam, off you go, all the way up, all the levels I'm able to see and clear it out as much as possible, including what they're trying to insert. Of course, there will be ramifications of that, which I'll then have to deal with days after, but that's the battle of those of us who have the warrior gene. We will use that solution. Others of you might choose to be more diplomatic, but in my vocabulary, don't trust these people because none of them are trustworthy. They're trying to get this planet because they need the genetics that are stored here. That's why they're here. They're not here to help us. They're not here to recreate humanity. They're here to recreate their version of a human they can use for their purposes so they can link up their reality fields to our planet. And then once it begins to go into its final devastation cycles somewhere around 2065, they're going to completely absorb what they can into their system and leave the remains to the enhanced humans or whatever's left on that level with the three lower fields. That means whoever will be slightly enhanced, but not really enhanced enough to go into the parallel universal matrix or what have you. It doesn't matter. That's the division that's happening. And all of the things that are happening around us are part of that pattern. And I know it sounds terrifying and many of you might be scared shit by this, but that is what I'm seeing. That's what I'm working with constantly on a daily basis. There is nothing pretty about my awakening process. Never was, because that's not what I came here to do. I'm here to undo the effects of the timeline event. I'm here to shut down the Pillar Project. I'm here to clean up the mess of my lineage. I'm here to clean up the mess of my races as the last one standing. And if I don't make it, none of my lineage will be at all left to do anything. That's good and fine with me. Because at least I'll know I've done what I could to do what I was supposed to do, what was my responsibility. Did I feel that way when I began 10 years ago? Absolutely not. I was in all of the thought processes and the emotional processes most of you are in. But it changed. The more I cleared, the more I saw, the more I understood, the more I had to deal with. And then I had a long period of time where I thought, why am I with all of this? And then I began remembering my childhood dreams and some of the understandings I got early on, which of course didn't understand as a kid, but seen in what I'm experiencing now makes perfect sense. Yeah, I got that unfortunate punishment being a releaser. that would kind of goes in the line of clearing up the work of my lineages, which I came to do here in 1959. So that's the twist of my original purpose, but in a manner that suits whatever's left here and not what really suits me. You could say what I get from it is the knowledge of a lot of stuff, but in the end, would I rather be without and just focus on the Pillar Project and the original technologies and what I created? Absolutely. Not having to do 80, 90% shit work all the time to be able to do the 10% that is my own, if I even get that much. And at the same time, also doing the progression work, the course material, which is what gives me a kind of joy. It gives a purpose to what I'm doing here. So not just all inside, but actually also something that's put out into some kind of project, which is the whole academy, which is it's a good creational project. Keeps me safe and sound, so to speak, in my mind, because I'm using my potentials to create something that has a purpose for the many, whether or not others will do it, because I can't ask people to do this. People are who they are. They are what they have become or what they were, or if they were not interested in that. There are not many of the original solar system people left. There are a lot of that were enslaved here. There was a lot that's been dumped here. There's a lot that belongs to the humanoid races. There are a lot that's been captured by the Dracos in their own system and brought here as slaves under the Dracos. There's a lot that's part of the lineages or the bloodlines under the Dracos and the old nobilities and what have you. So there's not much of the original ones because they were worn out quickly. That's what the Dracos came for, and they targeted these first. As I said, the elders are now just slugs in the underworld, or snakes in the underworld, which the Hindus teach us as well. So they're stuck down there. So that's part of the process many are getting with the quote unquote Kundalini awakening, where these old elder races are trying to get back up and get into human form. Again, this whole amount of deception. What is really going on there when people are doing what they are doing? Is it actually yours, or is it someone who wants to get back into physical form? And that's part of the activation and clearing work as well when we do the cleanup stages of the different processes that are activated as the original reality field activates and closes down, so everything that is viable can be removed and should be removed and pulled out. And I explain more about that in the perception logs as well as in the whole transition science courses. So those of you who are now doing this and listening to these kind of things, say, wow, where did that come from? It comes from because I already explained it in the perception logs, of which there are 6. And I explained it in the transition science courses, of which there are 7. So I already explained it as part of the material. It's not part of the basics because they were made in 2017. That was before 2020. But the whole integration class 5 and 6, yes, they were made in 2021, I think, where that was where the last remnant energies of the Syrian age could be put into teaching with the brain enzyme and some of the old world order energy system dynamics. And then moving in, and you'll say, well, the energy work was made in 2017. Yes, but it's still spot on because that's the 4th dimension clearing work. And that's still here. People are still dealing with it. People are still connected to it because the parallel universal matrix, not as much anymore, but definitely the transhuman and the grays are still operating from the 4th dimension, the artificial one. So these are some of the challenges that, joking there. So these are some of the challenges. And for those of you who get more and more insight into what people actually are when we talk about other people, you will understand they're on their own path. So when you ask me, why are you doing this? Are you doing this to save anybody else? No, because I know I can't save anybody. I learned that as a psychotherapist many, many years ago. If people are who they are, if their defense mechanisms are too strong, they won't do this work, because it scares the shit out of them. So no, not until they grow a pair of balls and get a little bit of what you call courage to do the work will they do it. They would rather just entertain themselves in outer pleasures that are oriented towards the body than actually go in and work with their psyche and understand what they're made of. The same goes when we go to the deeper levels. They'd rather buy into the idea of the perfect awakening, ascension protocol, galactic federation, Nordic bullshit of, oh, you got all the activation symptoms and this is what it is. And you got this and this sequence, number sequence, and that's so nice. 1111, that's the activation that you're activating to your higher stellar potentials. And yes, it is true. But what is 1111? What are you activating into? Who is behind the digits of the binary code system that is actually showing? Interestingly enough, the hexadecimal of the binary code 1111 are, you have 111100, that's the X chromosome, and you have 111101, which is the Y chromosome. So you have the 1111 that runs in daytime, and you have the 1111 that runs in nighttime, and these are the different projects that are under the grace. Again, this is all connected to the grace that came in 2011. That's behind the event program. It's activation sequence into the event program. And if you think that's, of course, whoa, I want to go there. Yeah, go with these digits. But for me, whenever that I was living with one that were military project that were being transformed into these programs, whenever he hit the 1111, we had grace in the apartment. So no, thank you. I'm good. No, thank you. No 1111 for me here. So this is again where people are talking positively about something, either because they are part of that faction. For them, it's good news. Woohoo! Finally, we can be who we are, as I said, with the demons that are now having a world around them that's actually theirs, right? Where they can live in humans instead of being these night crawlers, what do you call it, expelled into the underworld. They're now up and fresh air and breathing, which we've seen in the TV show Lucifer and whatever. It's insane how these shows have been put out there. Anyway, so, or they're part of the transhuman agenda, going to the new fifth Earth, or fifth dimensional Earth, or whatever, under the parallel universal matrix, or they're doing 1111 transhuman new hybrid kids that are going to be the new vessels of the grace, so they can get out of their bionic version of a race and go into original organic forms, which they will play around with for a couple of times here, so they get the gene codes correct, and then they will pull out everything from the human form and transfer it somewhere else. So that's what's going on. But if people want to be part of that, go for it. Because you can't tell people that this is not, just listen to the response you have when I tell you this. Some of you, I'm talking to you in sessions and I'm telling you what you are. And some of you, you do not respond well to that. All of your parasites, everything goes into defense. And instead of actually working with the information and pondering upon, could it be truth? You are turning the other way around, becoming enormously aggressive and calling me all sorts of very bad stuff, which I talk about in the Changemaker as well, because I just had another incident of that one where people come, tell me who I am. Okay, this is who you are. Oh, no, I'm not what you say I am. And then you go completely ballistic. And I get a shitstorm from all of the dark stuff that's hidden in people. So this is the problem that we're dealing with here. People don't want to know the truth. They want to know their version of the truth. So we can't really tell people what's going on there. That's why I just focused on the sciences of the progression work. Those of you who are ready to work with me, we could give it a shot. But if you respond negatively, I close the door and say, yeah, do your clearing work and come back when you're ready to deal with who and what you truly are. And if you never are, don't come back. Go somewhere else. Go somewhere that feeds into your dream of you being so very special and so very grand and so very pure and so very delightful and so very everything that you need to uphold, because you are not ready to deal with your childhood traumas where you were taught that you were absolute nobody. So that's a kind of a psychological dynamic that is running the psychological traits when we're doing the activation work and when we're doing the awakening. If people have had shitty childhoods, there is the best thing ever to go into the ascension dynamics and feeling they are special. Being told they are special, being told they're selected to be the progenitors of the next human race that will be reseeded once this race has fucked up everything as part of the hybrid programs, instead of just saying, hey, wait a minute. But people are buying into the story. They're buying into being elected. They're part of the lineage. They have chosen this on a soul level, or whatever story people are getting, because then they feel they're special. The same as the 1111. Oh, that's an activation. I'm seeing it all the time. I'm so fucking special. Yeah, it activates your implants that are part of your left and right hemisphere to create an electrochemical response mechanism that links you up to certain programs that's part of the event program from where you get downloads. Yes, it is an activation process, but is it one you want to be part of? So again, people are not asking the right questions. So they don't get the right answers because they rather be in their denial and comfort zone of their specialness. than dealing with what actually is going on there, what this program was originally made for, what this reality has become, and the bad stuff that's happening. Those of you looking out there, you don't have to watch the news if you don't trust the news. Just look at people around you. Look what's going on the internet. Look at what's going on with males on our planet. Look how far we pushed Black Lives Matter. Duh. Changes? Not much. Look how far we pushed Me Too. Duh. Changes? Not much. Women are still wild prey here for men and their sexual desires. Men are caving into porn. Men are caving into all sorts of stuff. Females are caving into the idea that they are to be the breeders of the next generation of humanity under the control of Grace or whatever, just to put out there some of it. Go in and listen to people. Don't listen it through the looking glass of all is good and fine and someone's here to save us and take care of us. Look at it as, when you're listening to these, being people under the control of invading factions, invading species. See what you get out of the information then, as in kind of what they're being told is manipulation to get them to do certain things they normally wouldn't do. It's a targeted program manipulating people to give consent to something they naturally would not be allowed to do because it's a violation of all species. But humans are so stupid that they want to be special. They want to get out of this hamster wheel, so they rather buy into something that is sketchy and directly in violation of all rules of engagement of all species than to accept the fact that we have been invaded, that we are not as pure and pristine, and the awakening process is going to be a shit process for the most of us. And that's also when I'm doing these 3 videos. So you kind of say, well, I'll do the transition science courses because I don't talk about that in that way. And then I'll stop there and do my own stuff. Because when you go into the change maker and the whole project, that's where I'm just taking away the veil and just put things out there as I see them. No more cloaking, no more trying to paint it nice. It's still not that I've got anything against pigs. They're kind animals, very intelligent, not pretty to look at, and they're smelly and whatever. But that's the idea of the idiom I'm here using. You can put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. Still lives the way it does. It still looks as it do, even though it's got red lips. It's still a pig. Or you can cover up a turd or a poo with some nice frosting. It's still a poo. It doesn't change the poo, even though you make it look nice. So that's why I'm kind of we are at that point now, because now it's no longer, as I talked about, a possibility that we could do right by keeping up the illusion of, if we keep things in the right manner, of keeping it in love and light, as the older races try to do here, the elders, which led to their underworld demise, right? But keep up the illusion of the high type of light field, then everything will be good and fine. If we all just look at things from a positive angle, then it will not go that bad. As I keep saying, yeah, do that with a predator. Predator is still a predator. It might go away from you because you keep up your light bubble, but does it go away from the reality field? Has it been shifted out of this system? Have you done your work to clear these things, these predators that are energetic beings, out of our system? Have you taken your part? As well as the old clearing work where people, I go into my light bubble and then I push it out of my energy system. Yeah, where does it go? It was part of your system. You could have cleared it out. It's your damn responsibility. Similarly, when you have trash in your home, do you just shovel it out on the street? Of course not. You clean it up. You do what you need to do. Right? So that's part of that responsibility that goes with the progression work. And that's where I am aiming. So those of you who are not ready for that hardcore mentality of straightforward looking into the darkness to clear it into light, and you want to stay within the light ideas, you do the whole transition science courses, which operates entirely within that. And then you stay there, learn to do your clearing work, learn to understand the composition of your emotional field, learn to understand who and what you are, to the manner of what you have become, clear out as much as you can, do your daily energy work, do that. That's the most important tool you have got, so you can maintain yourself. Because right now, the underworld forces are playing a game of hardball. They are trying to get access to you every single day. And the 1111 that used to be a activation code of the military projects under the races that were working with enhanced humans, due to the Orion invasion in 2018, most of the military projects shifted under the QAnon and the Corona pandemic, so they have become something else, and they are being, the 1111 is now no longer activated into heavens, it's being activated the other way around, because the fifth cycle energies are coming in with their polarity dynamics. Before, we were on the horizontal level under the old world order control programs, which were annoying. Yes, I talk about these in the Souls of Humanity, and it's part of to be cleared out. But because of where we are now in the collapse of everything, we are now being activated into what we call the ascension elevation dynamics, which is the vertical one that goes into the underworld and up to the heavens, between heaven and hell. So that's also part of our new orientation on the cross that we are crucified upon, if you remember from the Gospels, that we have the whole horizontal level to learn to work within a heart field with other people. And once you get that one, you activate vertically, where you begin to activate the body and the mind field. And that's where you tap into the original dynamics of our planet. That's the fifth cycle. So there's a crossing between the fourth cycle on the horizontal level that goes with the heart field, and then you go into the vertical one that connects to the mind field and the fifth cycle and the fifth dimension and all of the things that are going on there. And that's the difficult one, because the 1111 can lead you to heaven or it can lead you to hell. So that's not just one thing. It's the grace of using their version of it, but it has been used in different ways when you work with the numbers. And so, as I also said, it's part of a binary code that's part of a computer system. But the binary code technically goes back, I looked it up, it goes back to the 1600. It actually goes back to China and the I Ching. So, and China are one of the ones that have been controlled by the grace for the longest period of time. So, probably reason for that. Could it be that the Chinese were the ones that is seated in the first versions of the event program using I Ching, throwing the little stones there? Anyways, I'm just putting that in. I'm not saying that for sure. I haven't got conclusive things, but I was asking the question, what is the 1111? And then I got the grace coming in. And when you ask correctly at a certain point, they will give you the answers, of course, ramifications to follow with that one, which of course I had to clear out afterwards. So just to put things in context for those of you who want to continue the work, do the transition science courses as a minimum. That there, if you want to stay within the feeling good bubble, which I completely understand why you choose that. Do that and then do your clearing work. Learn to do your clearing work. Learn to scan your own energy system. Be observant of your energy system. That's all I can tell you now, more than ever. And then figure out how far you want to go. And with that one, I'll end in video 3 with that one. Thank you.